The battlefield was quiet, too quiet. Smoke rose from the broken ground. The air smelled of burnt metal and blood. Soldiers from many races hid behind walls and broken machines. None of them wanted to step into the open because they knew who was walking there. She came slowly, step by step, and every sound of her feet made the ground shake. She was the execution machine, the weapon the alien overlords had built to destroy without mercy. Her tall figure was covered in black armor that shined with a cold light. Her eyes glowed red like fire in the night. Her hands carried a blade longer than any human arm. She was not born to live. She was made to kill. The soldiers whispered to each other, "Stay low, do not move. Pray she does not see you." Once she saw a target. That target never lived again. She moved without emotion, her face empty, her voice never heard. To her enemies, she was death. To her masters, she was control. The alien overlords called her their perfect creation. She never missed. She never failed. For years, she had walked from battlefield to battlefield, leaving silence behind her. But that night, something different was waiting among the ruins of the city. A single human soldier lay wounded. His arm was bleeding, his chest hurt with every breath, but his eyes were open, and he was not afraid. He watched her shadow move closer. Through the smoke, he could hear the heavy sound of her steps. He could feel the cold air around her. Yet, he did not move. The other soldiers whispered, "Run, crawl, hide." But he did nothing. He sat there against a broken wall, his body broken, but his eyes steady. He had seen death before, but this was not the same. This was something greater. Something colder, and yet, for some reason, he felt no fear. The execution machine stopped when she saw him. Her glowing eyes locked on his face. Her blade lifted slowly. The air around her seemed to freeze. The ground seemed to wait for the sound of death. Everyone who watched expected to see his head fall. They expected blood. They expected screams. But there was none. The human did not beg. He did not cry. He did not fight. He only looked into her eyes, his face calm, his lips closed. He did not give her the fear she was built to see. And in that moment, the machine hesitated. It was small, just a second, just the smallest pause. But it was enough. The soldiers who hid around could not believe what they saw. She had never stopped before. She had never hesitated before. Every order was always followed. Every target always killed. Yet here she stood, silent, watching him. Her blade unmoving. Her mind was filled with voices, orders, commands. Kill the human. Remove the witness. Finish the task. Her master's voices echoed inside her head like iron chains. But the human's eyes were stronger. They were steady. They were alive. And for the first time, something inside her core trembled. She stepped closer, her shadow falling over him, the blade raised higher. Everyone thought it was the end. But he still did not look away. His chest rose and fell slowly. His hand touched the ground. He felt the dust. He felt the broken stone. He felt the moment. And then he whispered. Very soft, but she heard it. "You don't have to do this." The words were simple, but they cut through her metal heart like fire. She froze, her fingers tight on the blade. Her red eyes flickered. The voices shouted louder inside her head, but another sound was there now, a softer sound. The memory of what those words meant, the battlefield, stayed silent. Every soldier held their breath. The human lifted his hand slowly, not in fight, not in fear, but in something different. He lifted it toward her, reaching for her hand, the same hand that had ended thousands of lives, the same hand that everyone feared. Her system screamed. Warning, threat, danger, yet something deeper pulled her to stay. Her body shook, her armor hummed, her eyes burned, but still she stood there. The blade no longer moving. the silence of the battlefield turning heavier with every second. The human's hand stopped, only inches away from hers, his eyes never breaking. His breath hard but steady. He waited. He did not pull back. He did not run. He waited, and the execution machine, for the first time in her life, felt unsure. This was not how death was supposed to be. This was not how her orders usually went. She always killed. She always obeyed. But this man, this human, something about him broke the path she had walked for so long. She stood still, the blade high, his hand close, and for the first time in her existence, she did not know what to do. The smoke moved around them like a curtain. The fires burned low in the distance. The soldiers whispered in fear. No one dared to breathe too loud. The world seemed to wait, as if time itself wanted to see what would happen, and in that long, cold silence, one truth became clear. This meeting, this moment, was not just another execution. It was the beginning of something that would change both of them forever. The execution machine stood with her blade high, her red eyes fixed on the human. The battlefield around them waited for the sound of death. But instead, there was only silence. The human did not move, his hand still half raised. His body broken, but his spirit unshaken. He looked at her as if she was not a monster, as if she was not a weapon, as if she was more than the name they gave her. His eyes carried no hate, no fear, only a strange calm, and that calm was like a stone in her path, an obstacle her orders could not pass. The voices in her head demanded action. Finish him, obey. No hesitation, but her body was locked, her blade heavy. The glow of her red eyes flickered for a moment, and in that flicker, the soldiers watching from the shadows felt something they had never seen before. The machine was doubting. The human's lips moved again, his voice low but steady. If you want to kill me, do it. But no, this sigh will not bow, not to you, not to them. The words hit her like a strike. She had faced warriors who begged, who cried, who fought with rage, but never one who looked at her like this, never one who gave her defiance with calm. She tilted her head, her glowing eyes narrowing. She studied him as if he was something unknown. He coughed, blood on his lips, but his smile stayed. Weak, but real. You think you are a machine, but you are not. I can see it in your eyes. Someone is still in there. The crowd of hidden soldiers gasped. None of them would ever dare speak to her like that. They whispered that he was mad. They whispered that he was already dead. But the execution machine did not strike. Instead, she lowered the blade just slightly, the tiniest movement, but enough to make every watcher's heart stop. She stepped closer, the metal of her armor gleaming in the dying firelight. Her shadow fell over him. He did not move back. His body could barely move, but his spirit held firm. You were not born to kill, were you? He said softly. You were made, forced, but not born this way. Her hands tightened on the blade. Her system screamed danger. Yet her heart, if she still had one, shook. His words were pressing against the chains inside her mind, pressing against the walls that held her true self buried deep. She could hear the master's voices, cold and sharp. Finish, the human. Prove your loyalty. Obey. But his voice was louder. His voice did not order. It invited, and she found herself listening to him instead of them. The execution machine raised her blade again, as if ready to finish it. Soldiers in the ruins closed their eyes, waiting for the scream, but the human only smiled wider, his teeth stained red. Do it then, he whispered. But if you do, remember my eyes. Remember the one who did not bow. Her arm froze in the air, the blade heavy, her breathing uneven. For the first time, her body trembled. A machine was not supposed to tremble. Yet she did. Her armor hummed with strange energy, her circuits flashing. she lowered the blade slowly. Her red eyes flickered again. The soldiers watching whispered louder now. This was impossible. This was against her code, but it was real. She had not killed him. Instead, she stepped back, her body confused, her mind full of broken signals. The human saw it. He saw the hesitation, and with slow, painful movement, he lifted himself straighter, his voice stronger than before. You are not just their tool. You can choose, you can stop. Look at me. I am not afraid of you. I see you, not a weapon. Not a machine, but you. The execution machine's chest burned. A sound rose inside her, not the voice of her masters. Not the sound of her systems, but something she could not name, something almost human. Her red eyes dimmed, glowing softer. She looked at his hand again, still stretched toward her. Waiting around them, the battlefield seemed to vanish. The smoke, the fire, the ruins, all faded in that moment. It was just her and him, the weapon, and the wounded soldier. And yet, for the first time, she felt like more than a weapon. She did not take his hand yet, her body still frozen. She also did not strike. She stood there, trapped between what she was built to do and what she now felt. Her silence was louder than any scream, and the human, though bleeding, though weak, spoke one last time with fire in his voice. If you kill me, you only prove them right. If you spare me, even once, you prove yourself free. Her red eyes widened, her body shook harder. The blade dropped lower, her systems warning her of betrayal, her master's voices screaming in her skull. But his words were like light breaking through darkness. For the first time, she wondered what it would mean to be free. The execution machine stood in silence, her blade heavy in her hand. The human staring at her with eyes that did not break. The battlefield waited, the galaxy held its breath, and in that long, endless pause, a new story began, not of death, but of defiance. The execution machine stood frozen, her blade heavy at her side. Her glowing red eyes locked on the human before her. Silence filled the battlefield. Even the smoke seemed to pause in the air. Every soldier hiding in the ruins waited for her. Strike, but none came. The human's hand was still raised, weak but steady, fingers stretched out toward her. He did not shake. He did not pull back. His blood-stained arm trembled with pain. But the hand itself stayed open, as if waiting for her to take it. She stared at that hand, her mind filled with warnings. The voices of her masters screamed louder. End him now. Her systems burned with orders. Chains of code bound her every thought. But that hand, that human hand, seemed to cut through the noise. Her blade lowered a little more, her body trembling. She could not understand why she was made to end lives, not hold hands. She had touched many before, lying to take life away, but never like this, never with meaning. The human's voice came again, low and soft. It's just a hand, not a weapon, not a trap. Take it. His words carried no fear, only warmth. Something she did not know how to name. Slowly, painfully slow, she moved, her metal fingers twitched. Her arm, heavy like stone, she reached forward. The soldiers hidden gasped. None could believe what they saw. The execution machine, the galaxy's terror. Lowering her weapon hand and extending it toward a human. When her cold hand touched his, something happened. It was small, unseen by others. But inside her, it was like lightning, a spark of something she thought was long dead. His hand was warm, fragile, human. Hers was cold, heavy, and sharp. Yet, the moment they touched, she felt a pulse inside her chest. Her red eyes flickered, dimmed, then glowed again, softer this time. Not the burning fire of rage, but the light of confusion. She gripped his hand lightly. Almost afraid she would crush it, and he squeezed back with what little strength he had left. The human smiled. Weakly, "See, you're not just their tool. You can feel. You can choose." She froze at his words. Her system screamed error. Her programming fought to lock her movements. Her master's voices roared in her skull. Release him, kill him, obey. But her grip did not loosen. She held his hand tighter, her glowing eyes turning from red to a deep shade of amber, a color no one had ever seen from her before. The soldiers hiding whispered in shock. Some dropped their weapons. They could not believe it. The execution machine, who had slaughtered thousands, was holding the hand of a human soldier like he was her equal. Inside her mind, old memories flickered, buried deep under years of control. She saw flashes of a face, a voice calling her name. She remembered being young, being alive before they turned her into this weapon. And for the first time, she remembered she was not born a machine. She was made into one. Her hand trembled as she clutched his, her chest rising in uneven breaths. Something she had not felt in years. She whispered words, broken, mechanical, but clear enough to be heard. "I don't understand." The human's eyes softened, thumb brushing across her cold fingers. "You don't need to understand yet. Just feel it. You're alive." Her masters shouted through the coms in her head. Failure. Malfunction. Eliminate him. Their commands roared like thunder. But the warmth of his hand drowned them out. Her heart, if it could be called a heart, beat faster. Something alive inside her pushing against the chains. She dropped her blade. It hit the ground with a heavy sound, echoing across the battlefield. Every soldier froze. None dared to breathe. The execution machine had never let go of her weapon before. But now she stood, hand in hand with a human. Unarmed, the human coughed, pain in his chest, but his smile stayed. "They built you to kill. But they can't control this. They can't control who you are when you hold my hand." Her glowing eyes shimmered, almost like tears. Though machines were not supposed to cry, she looked at him, not as prey, not as target, but as something she did not know how to name, something fragile yet powerful. The voices in her head began to fade, their power breaking, the chains of programming loosening. Her grip on his hand grew stronger. "Steady," she whispered again, voice trembling. "What am I?" "You're more than what they made you," he said gently. "You're free, if you choose it." For the first time in her existence, she felt the weight of choice, heavy and terrifying, but also beautiful. She was no longer just a blade in their hands, she was someone who could decide. And it all started with one simple act, the touch of a human hand. The battlefield remained silent, but deep inside, something had shifted. Something that could not be undone. The execution machine was no longer the same, and neither was the human, the moment their hands touched. The galaxy's story changed forever. Her blade lay on the ground, silent and forgotten. The battlefield still held its breath. Soldiers hiding behind rubble stared in disbelief. The execution machine, the weapon of death, was standing unarmed. Holding the hand of a human, her glowing eyes flickered, red fighting with amber. Her body trembling with each second. The voices of her masters screamed louder in her mind. Sharp and merciless. "Obey. Kill the human. Prove loyalty. Obey." Their words cracked like whips. Pressing against her will, she staggered, her legs heavy, her free hand clutching her head, metal fingers digging into her armor as if she wanted to rip the commands out. Sparks flashed across her body, systems fighting against themselves. Her programming screamed for blood, but her hand stayed in his. The human watched her struggle, his chest rising with pain, his arm weak, but his eyes did not waver. "Fight it," he whispered, voice rough but steady. "They don't own you." Not anymore. Her scream tore through the battlefield. Half human, half machine, a sound that shook the ruins. Her masters shouted through the comms, Control failing. Reset her core. Reset now. But she fell to her knees, her hands still clutching his, refusing to let go. Her vision blurred with images, codes, and numbers flashed across her mind. Mixed with broken memories of another life, she saw a young girl running through fields. Laughing in sunlight, she saw a mother's voice calling her name. She saw herself once human, before they took her, before they broke her into metal and orders. Her voice cracked, broken and weak. I remember. The human squeezed her hand, whispering again, "That's you. That's the real you. Don't let them bury it again." Her systems flared. Alarms screamed inside her. Critical error, loyalty failing, terminate subject. But the warmth of his hand burned brighter than the cold commands. Her programming broke piece by piece. Chains snapping inside her mind, she fell forward. Her forehead pressing against his chest, trembling, her armor humming with sparks. She whispered like a child, "I don't want to kill anymore." The human held her as tightly as his broken body allowed. "Then don't. The choice is yours." The soldiers who hid in the shadows could not believe their eyes. They whispered to one another, fear and awe mixing in their voices. The execution machine, the perfect killer, was breaking, was becoming something else. Her masters roared in fury across the comms. "You are property. You are ours. Obey, obey." Their signals tried to seize her nerves, tried to move her body, but she resisted, her systems shutting down one by one. Her armor cracking, her glowing eyes burning brighter. She screamed again, louder than before, a cry of pain, but also of freedom. Her voice shattered the comlink. The control signal cut away like broken glass. Silence filled her head for the first time in years. Her red eyes faded completely, replaced by amber, glowing softly. Alive, she lifted her head. Her face still expressionless, but her eyes carrying something new choice. She looked at the human, voice low but clear. "They don't control me anymore." He smiled weakly, though. His lips bled. I knew it. The execution machine rose to her feet slowly, her blade still on the ground. Her armor cracked, smoke rising from her joints, but she stood tall, her hand never leaving his. Her masters, far away, tried again to send commands, but nothing reached her. She had broken their code. She had broken the chains, for the first time in her life. She was not theirs. She was her own. The soldiers who had once feared her now looked with wide eyes. Some dropped their weapons. Some bowed their heads. They felt the change. They saw it. The monster was gone. Something new stood in her place. She turned her head, scanning the battlefield. She saw fear in their eyes, but she also saw hope, a hope that she had never seen before. A hope that maybe the weapon of their nightmares had turned into a warrior. Of their side, the human coughed hard, his voice shaking but still strong. "What will you do now?" Her glowing eyes softened, her grip on his hand firm. "I don't know," she whispered, "but I will not kill for them again." The fires burned lower in the ruins, the smoke drifting upward, the night cold and heavy. But in the middle of the battlefield, something impossible had happened. The execution machine was no longer a machine. Her masters had lost her. The galaxy's deadliest weapon had slipped from their control. And now she walked a new path, holding the hand of the human who broke her chains. The overlords did not forgive betrayal the moment her code broke. The moment she dropped her blade, alarms rang across their command ships. Their voices filled the airwaves with rage. The execution machine has failed. She has turned. Eliminate her at once. Across the skies, drones shifted their flight paths. Warships turned their cannons. Soldiers received new orders. She was no longer their weapon. Now she was their enemy. The hunter had become the hunted. She stood tall in the ruins. Smoke still rising from her cracked armor, her glowing amber eyes scanning the battlefield. She could feel the signal gone, the chains broken, But in their place came a storm of fury from those who once owned her. Beside her, the human leaned against the broken wall, his body weak, blood soaking his uniform. But his eyes followed her every move. He understood what was coming. "They won't stop, will they?" he whispered. Her voice was low, but certain. "No, they will hunt me until I am nothing above them." The sound of engines grew louder. Black shapes cutting across the sky. Drones circled like vultures. Their red eyes glowing, weapons armed, the soldiers who had been hiding ran further. Back, none wanted to be caught in the storm about to fall. The execution machine bent down, her cold hand lifting the human gently to his feet. Though his legs trembled, she supported him with ease. "If they want me, they will have to fight me," she said, her voice no longer mechanical, but filled with will. He smiled weakly. "Then, let's make them regret it." The drones opened fire, beams of light raining down. Explosions tore through the ruins, stone and metal flying in every direction. She pulled the human close, her body shielding him. The blasts striking her armor, sparks and smoke bursting from her shoulders. But she did not fall. She reached down and picked up her blade, the same blade that had once brought death to thousands. But now in her hands, it was no longer their weapon. It was hers. She swung it in a wide arc, slicing through the air. Cutting down the first drone that came too close, its body crashed in flames. The human watched, his breath heavy, but his eyes shone with awe. She was still powerful, still dangerous. But now her power had a purpose. Now she fought for herself and for him. The overlords sent more, a swarm of machines dropping from the sky. Their wings sharp, their cannons glowing, the night filled with their cries. She spun her blade, moving like fire, cutting one after another, their pieces raining down like metal rain. But the numbers kept growing. More and more, the overlords would not let her go so easily. She realized this was no longer just about her survival. This was about freedom. Not only hers, but for anyone who had lived under their control. She turned her glowing eyes to the human. "They will not stop until one of us is gone." He coughed, but smiled. "Then we give them something they don't expect, the execution." Machine lifted him into her arms, carrying him with care, and ran through the burning streets, drones chasing, beams tearing holes in the ground behind them. The city became a maze of fire and shadows. But she moved with speed no human could match, her blades striking down any machine that came near. She was no longer the silent hunter. She was the hunted. But she did not run in fear. She ran with purpose, her every step defying the chains that once bound her. The overlord's perfect weapon had slipped from their hands, and now she was free. The soldiers hiding in the ruins watched her go, whispers spreading among them. The execution machine has turned. The human has changed her. She is no longer theirs. Hope sparked where once there was only fear. Above, the overlords raged, their voices echoing through the combs. Destroy her, destroy the human, wipe them out. But no matter how many they sent, she cut them down. Her blade dancing through fire and ash, her glowing amber eyes shining brighter. With each strike, for years, she had been the hand of death, the nightmare of the galaxy. But now, she was something different, something new. She was hunted, yes, but she was also free. And freedom gave her a strength greater than any code. The human in her arms whispered faintly, his voice weak, but filled with faith. "They made a mistake. They should never have let you touch my hand." Her grip on him tightened, her eyes glowing like stars in the smoke. "No, they should never have thought I was only a machine." The night burned with battle, but in the center of the fire, a new story was being written. The hunter had become the hunted, and the hunted was not ready to fall. Not now, not ever. The city burned around them. Towers cracked and fell into the streets. Flames lit the night sky like a second sun. The execution machine carried the human in her arms, her armor sparking, her blade in the other hand glowing with fresh blood and fire. Behind them came the roar of drones, the hunters refusing to give up their prey. Every step shook the ground. The ruins groaned. The sky was alive with the sound of engines. Beams cut through the air, missing her by inches, but still she ran. Swift and unbroken, the human clutched against her chest. His head heavy but his eyes open. "Where are you taking us?" he asked weakly, his voice rough from blood and dust. "Out of their net," she answered, her tone calm but sharp. "They think I am still their weapon. They chase me like they own me, but they do not understand. I am not theirs anymore." The road ahead split into fire and shadow. Walls crumbled. Machines swarmed. She swung her blade, cutting a path through steel bodies. Sparks showering over her shoulders. She moved like a storm, each strike sending enemies crashing into the ruins. But more came. Always more. The human coughed hard. Blood dripping down his chin. "You can leave me. They want you, not me." Her eyes flashed amber, bright and steady. "No," she whispered, holding him tighter. "You gave me freedom. You gave me choice. I will never leave you." They reached a bridge, half broken, fire raging below. The drones closed in from behind. Beams scorched the ground at her heels. The overlord's voices hissed across the skies. "End her, destroy her. She is nothing without us." She planted her foot on the bridge and leaped. The world seemed to fall away, the flames below roaring like an ocean of fire. She landed hard on the other side, stone cracking under her weight. The human gasped as the ground shook, but she held him safe. Unshaken, the drones circled above. Red eyes glowing, they fired again, the beams tearing through stone. The bridge collapsed into the flames, cutting off the path behind them. For a moment, there was silence. Only firelight dancing across the ruins. The human looked at her face. Glowing eyes locked on the horizon. "You could have let me go." "But you didn't," he whispered. She glanced down at him, her voice soft, almost human. "Because I am not free without you." Her words struck deep, even through the pain. He smiled faintly, his hand gripping her armor weakly. "Then we escape." Together, more machines dropped from the sky, heavier now, their armor thick, their weapons massive. The overlords were desperate. They would not allow her freedom, not when it meant their greatest weapon was gone. She placed the human gently against a wall, standing in front of him, blade ready, her amber eyes burning. "Stay behind me," she ordered. He nodded, too weak to argue, but his eyes never left her. The first machine charged, a giant walker with legs of steel, its cannon glowing bright. She dashed forward, her blade slicing through its knee joint. Sparks exploded as the machine crashed sideways, its weapon firing wild into the sky. She spun and cut again, her movements precise, unstoppable. The drones screamed down from above. Beams rained like fire, but she spun her blade in wide arcs, deflecting the light. The air shook with sound and heat. Her armor cracked more, but she did not stop. Her body moved with purpose, her will sharper than steel behind her. The human whispered through the chaos, "You fight for yourself now." She answered without turning, her voice steady. "No, I fight for us." The swarm of enemies grew, but so did her resolve. She cut, she struck, she moved like lightning through fire. Every step carrying her further from the chains of her past. Every strike proving she was no longer theirs. Flames roared higher. Smoke covered the stars. Yet she did not falter. Even as her body sparked, even as her systems screamed, she fought through it. Carrying the human's hope like a shield, the overlords howled in fury, their voices echoing from above. "You are nothing without us. You cannot run forever." But she looked up at the burning sky, her glowing eyes unshaken. "I am not yours anymore," she whispered. Though the words carried like thunder, she turned, lifted the human back into her arms, and ran again, leaving behind the ruins. Leaving behind the chains, the firelight cast their shadows long against the ground. One tall, armored, glowing, the other weak but alive, together moving forward. The night was endless, but so was her will. She was no longer an executioner, no longer a machine. She was free, and she would burn the galaxy before letting them take that from her. And as the fire raged around them, as the world shook with war, she carried him through it all, step by step, her hand gripping the blade, her other holding him close, together escaping through fire. The night stretched long, the flames of the ruined city fading behind them. The execution machine carried the human through the dark streets until the sound of drones grew distant. Only the wind moved now. Whispering through broken towers, her armor smoked and cracked. But she stood strong, her glowing amber eyes burning with will. The human stirred in her arms, his breath shallow but steady. "We made it this far," he whispered, his voice weak, yet filled with quiet pride. She looked down at him, her grip gentle despite the sharpness of her hands. "We are not safe yet. They will come again." He smiled faintly, blood still at his lips. "Then we keep going." Together, for years, she had walked alone, a weapon with no name, only orders. Now she carried not just a man, but something greater, his faith in her. His belief that she was more than a machine. It gave her strength stronger than steel. At dawn, the horizon glowed pale gold, the city's smoke curling into the rising light. She stopped at the edge of a broken field, placing him gently on the ground. He leaned against a stone, exhausted but alive, his eyes lifting to the sky. "Do you feel it?" he asked softly. "It's different now." She tilted her head, her glowing eyes softening. "The air is lighter," she said, almost in wonder. "For the first time, the voices are gone. My mind is mine." The silence inside her was strange. It was not empty, but open. She could think, she could choose. She was no longer chained to commands. She was free. Yet with freedom came something new in certainty. "What do I do now?" she whispered, her voice breaking slightly, a sound more human than machine. The human's hand, though weak, reached for hers again, his fingers brushing her cold metal. "You live," he said simply, "not for them. Not for killing, but for yourself." Her amber eyes flickered with light. Her body trembled, as if the words carried weight heavier than any blade. She knelt beside him, pressing her forehead against his, the metal warm from battle. "I don't know how to live," she whispered. "Then learn," he replied, his voice gentle but firm. "And I'll be with you." Every step, the world around them was broken. Cities in ruins. Skies still filled with smoke. Yet in that moment, a seed of hope grew. A bond forged not from orders or fear, but from choice. Her choice to hold his hand, his choice to trust her, far above. The overlords watched in silence, their greatest weapon lost, their control shattered. They would not forget, they would not forgive, but even they understood something dangerous had been born. A weapon turned against them, a machine that chose freedom. She rose again, helping him to stand, his body weak, but his spirit strong. Together they walked into the light of the rising sun, each step heavy yet filled with promise. The soldiers who had witnessed the change whispered of it. Stories spread across camps and ruins. They spoke of the execution machine who had dropped her blade, who had chosen a human's hand over the overlord's chains. They spoke of her glowing amber eyes, no longer red with death, but alive with something else. Fear turned into hope. Hope turned into fire. Soon others would rise, emboldened by her defiance. Soon the overlords would face not just armies, but hearts that refused to bow. The human leaned against her as they walked, his voice soft but clear. "They called you a weapon, but I call you something else." She looked down at him, her eyes curious. "What?" she asked. He smiled faintly. "Alive." Her heart if it could be called a heartbeat louder at that word, a sound she had forgotten. She held his hand tighter, her eyes on the horizon. "Then alive is what I will be." The morning sun rose higher, painting the ruins in gold, and for the first time since her creation, she did not feel like death walking. She felt like the start of something new. The execution machine was gone. In her place stood a woman who had broken chains, who had chosen her own path, and beside her stood the human who had given her the strength to do it. Their bond was fragile but unshakable, and together they stepped forward into the unknown. The galaxy would remember the day the execution machine held a human's hand. Not as the end of lives, but as the beginning of freedom.